Hey guys, now you can see a circuit breaker mechanism. Here you can see this red color spring is basically closing spring, and green color spring here is used for basically the tripping spring. Here you can also see the this is the spring for closing coil, and this is the spring for the tripping coil. So now you can see the motor is charging only the closing spring. This is the motor here downside, and it's charging through this mechanism the closing spring. So you can see spring is completely charged. Now this closing coil, when this operates, it will release the mechanism, and the result is that breaker is closed. So here you can see this is the breaker position. They have shown the breaker by this rod. So when the this closing coil is operated, in that case you can see the spring here is now released, discharged, and this is the closing coil mechanism, and this is the latch. It hit the latch, which in turn release the basically the closing coil mechanism, and spring is discharged and breaker is closed. So further you will see, now after breaker is closed, motor is again charging the closing spring. Okay, so here you can see the spring is now completely charged, breaker is closed. Next tripping pulse is issued, and this green color, which is basically a tripping coil, it is a solenoid. It is releasing the tripping mechanism, and it is in turn opening the breaker. Now breaker is open, you can see, and when the breaker is open, you can easily see that the opening spring is discharged. So now you can see at the moment we will again, because closing spring was charged, so we again close the breaker. The breaker is closed. You can see the motor is charging only the closing spring, whereas the tripping spring is charged. You can this is green color tripping spring is charged through the closing spring. As soon as the closing spring mechanism latch is released, it is doing two jobs. One, it is operating the circuit breaker, it's closing circuit breaker, and the same spring is also storing the energy or charging the tripping spring. It means, you can see now the simulation. What does it mean? It means the breaker is always ready to trip as soon as the breaker is closed by the closing spring, and this is the required function. And although if even there is no DC supply, the breaker will be always available to trip. So this is the protection requirement of the protection system. Now you can see this closing spring is discharged even, and now again the breaker is open. Now both springs are discharged at the moment. So this is the